Hello and welcome back to another episode of Handloader TV with me, your host, Jeremiah. And as you can see, we're not in our normal studio today. We're actually in a rather small room. This is my own personal reloading bench, but I thought this would be a great opportunity to share with you guys what a more budget setup looks like and what you can do working in the confines of a rather small space. This room I'm in right now is only about 9.5 feet by 9.5 feet. So it's a rather small confined space, and the door over here actually kind of cuts into my reloading bench. So with that, let's go ahead and walk you through what we've got set up before us and individual tools that I use on a regular basis on this setup. So right here on the end, I have a separate little bench or work table here. This is from Harbor Freight. It was actually marketed as a saw table or a miniature workbench, and this is a great option because I wanted to keep my powder measures and dispensers separate from where my press was mounted. These days I'm using more and more electronic powder dispensers, and when you're working on the press and doing heavy case forming operations or something like that, it's very easy to bump these powder dispensers and overcharge your powder pan and stuff like that. So I wanted to keep these separate from where my press is, and this little Harbor Freight table does a great job of that. Unfortunately, it's discontinued from Harbor Freight now and they no longer make it, but there's many other alternatives on the internet and it would be relatively easy to build something like this. There's also some storage underneath off camera where I keep powder, primers, bullets and that sort of thing, various tools. Just helps me keep more organized in this small space. So overviewing some of the tools that we have on here, first up we have a Redding BR30 powder measure. I still enjoy using this. It's very accurate, a great powder measure, easy to use, easy to empty, and makes great powder swapping operations, very simple and easy. Then I have a Hornady powder dispenser and an RCBS powder dispenser. That's the Matchmaster right there. Use that quite a bit. Then jumping on over to the main bench here, this is a 5-foot long Better Hood bench. I picked this up on Amazon for about $150 to $200 if I'm remembering correctly. So relatively reasonably priced, and it has a 2,000 pound load capacity, and on the end right here there's also a power strip so I can plug in my powder dispensers, kind of keep things nice and neat and organized on the bench. Very good option there. Seville Classics also makes a great workbench, and the benches that you see regularly in our photo studio, those are Gladiator benches. Fantastic benches, very solid, but they are a little bit pricey. So this is more in line with your budget setup. The first thing that I wanted to add to this bench was an inline fabrication ultra mount. This is their 9 3/4 inch tall mount. I like having it up a little bit because I've got my chair here, and I do enjoy sitting down while I'm reloading. I don't really like to stand, although this mount gives me the versatility to stand or sit, which is a nice option. Also, you'll see there's some extras here with the case bins here, some apparatus over here on the side. This press is set up with their case ejector system, which I am a really big fan of. We're going to be doing a separate video on that, so make sure you check that out. We'll show you how that works, how to install it, all that good stuff. Keep an eye out for that video. Then if we move along to the other side of the bench here, I have an RCBS Lubomatic 2, and sometimes I'll take this off my adapter plate here from RCBS and I'll mount it up on this Ultra mount just to raise it up a little bit, because the Ultra mount does have quick change plates, so I can very easily swap between my Rock Chucker, my Lubomatic, my Redding Big Boss press. Just makes swapping presses a breeze with their quick change adapter plates. Then over here, mounted on my RCBS accessory plate, is a bench-mounted primer. The RCBS Rock Chucker 2 is a press I use quite a bit here just because it's very solid, very rugged and reliable, and it's great for case forming operations, which I do a lot of here because it's a very time-consuming thing to do, and I do a lot of that on my own time. So this, as nice as this press is, the on-the-press priming leaves a little bit to be desired. So I went ahead and picked up one of these RCBS automatic prime systems here. Works great, offers great feel, very reliable, and very fast. So that really helps speed up along the process. The next tool on the bench that we have here is probably the biggest time-saving tool out of everything on this bench, and that is the Frankfurt Arsenal Platinum Case Prep Center. I've used this for years. I absolutely love it. And there's a lot of great case prep centers out there on the market, but what makes this one nice is it has a built-in trimmer on here. It's not good for everything because that trimmer does headspace off the shoulder of the case. So depending on how uniform your shoulders are on the case will depend how accurately it trims. And also it's not great for trimming, you know, massive amounts of brass like these here that are turning into 17 Mach 4 from 223. There's a lot of trimming involved in that. It's a little bit much for that guy to handle, but for just a quick 5 to 10 thousandths of an inch off the brass, that trimmer works great. And then of course you have your chamfer and deburr, and then I have a case neck brush here to clean out lube in the case necks and that kind of thing. This is a great time saver, and it's small and compact and doesn't take up very much room on the bench, which, as you can see, being only 5 foot in length, space on this bench is pretty precious. Now I've been doing a lot of case forming, so currently I have my RCBS Trim Pro 2, and we'll walk you through the operation on this guy and probably eventually do a separate review on this piece of equipment because it is a fantastic piece of equipment. But I have that set up to trim cases. Once again, forming cases, there's a lot of trimming involved. And this does a great job and also offers hands-free operation, which is really nice and something that people don't talk about often enough with this particular unit. Then of course you can see I have my bullets and dies back here kind of stored. I've got more storage underneath the bench, some bins and stuff like that, so I can swap tools around and perform any task that may be desired on this particular bench. Even bullet casting is possible because there's a window back there. I can open it up, put a fan in there, suck all the fumes out, and cast some bullets by simply moving my little Harbor Freight table in front of that. I like having my load data in front of me, so I've got a clipboard here with my load data, so that way I can always see it while I'm at the press, while I'm charging cases. I can quickly reference it. And then at the very end here, I have a Sinclair International neck turner, very nice neck turner. It's clamped to the bench, so that way I can use a power tool and quickly neck turn. Then I've got a Harbor Freight mini chop saw. This is their 2-inch bench top cutoff saw. Works great, again, for case forming operations. You can tell what I've been doing recently. Lots of cool stuff in the works. And then last but not least, up here on the wall here, we've got the inline rail system, which is a fantastic system because it allows you to do a ton of different things. You can store everything from your reloading presses to your powder to these case bins, which you can fill with whatever you want. They have die holders. I hold my tools up there. Just a great system, and it really helps declutter the bench. Helps take it off the bench, put it on the wall, and have a place for everything and everything in its place, which is what I'm all about on the reloading bench. It's very easy to get these things cluttered up. So there you have a basic overview. From here, let's go ahead and walk you through some of the case forming operations that are capable utilizing this small setup. So what I've been doing a lot of is taking 223 Remington brass here, and I've been turning it into 17 Mach 4. And it's a bit of a labor-intensive operation, but just to go ahead and show you how it works, what we're doing, and what this bench is really capable of doing, even with this little single stage press, I thought I'd walk you through a single piece start to finish on this case forming operation. So here I have a once fired 223 Remington. I'm going to go ahead and run it up into our form die number 1 for 221 Remington Fireball, and it's going to pop out real funky looking like that. From there, this die comes out, and it's time for the form and trim die, 221 Remington Fireball. You really want to do this in steps. You don't want to jump right ahead to the 17 Mach 4 dies because you're going to run into some very interesting issues, splitting cases and that sort of thing. So then this guy still has some Redding Imperial sizing die wax on it. I think we'll put a little bit more. And then what we're going to have to do is pop out this standard length shell holder. As you saw there, it wouldn't reach up into the die. So we have an extended shell holder here. that we can place onto the ram of the press. Place the case in there like that. Now it'll run through the form and trim die. And it does take some force. Now what a lot of people will do is run this into a hacksaw or something like that, trim off that excess. But if I have hundreds and hundreds of cases to do, what I like to do actually is I'll take it over here to my RCBS Trim Pro 2. I've already got it set up for the correct length and everything like that. This case simply locks into this guy. And once I pull this lever, it's going to trim. It does take some time, but while it's trimming, I can be doing other operations on the press because this is hands-free. So we'll show you that. For a hands-free operation, that works really nice, quick and smooth. Then I'll run it over to the case prep center here. Put a little chamfer and deburr on that. When you're taking that much material off the case that quickly with this product here, which you want to be careful running that into your die. You're going to want to put a little chamfer and deburr, because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to scratch up the inside of your die. So now what I've gone ahead and done is taken the 17 Remington Mach 4 form number 1 die. I went ahead and secured that into the rock chucker press. We'll take our case and, well, let's go ahead and make sure we've got, I like to have just a little bit of cam over on this guy, so we can go a little bit more. Right about there, that feels good. Set our lock ring. Regular shell holder is back in. We've still got plenty of sizing die wax on that, should be totally fine. And then we can carefully run that guy in. And there, we're getting really close to the 17 Mach 4 case. One more die. Pop this 17 Mach 4 number 1 out. And in goes the 17 Mach 4 trim die. And once again, with the trim die, we need the extended shell holder, like so. Set that up against our lock ring. Lost a little bit of sizing die wax just with the residual on my fingers here. Put a little bit more in. And then we'll run that up into that form and trim die, like so. And again, you could hacksaw this off, or if you're doing a big batch like I've been working on here, what you can go ahead and do is chuck that back up in your trimmer and let it trim off that excess brass. Now I have a fully formed 17 Mach 4 case just like that. So in spite of how small this bench is, you can see that even case forming operations, even labor intensive ones like this, can be done relatively simply and easily, especially if you're working in big batches. Now let's go ahead and walk you start to finish loading a single round of ammunition on this bench and give you an overall feel for it. So to give you an idea on the workflow on this bench, I've got a single 223 Remington case here, and we're just going to go ahead and reload this from the start to the finish. So first up, we've got the full-length sizing die screwed in. I've got some Redding Imperial sizing die wax here that we're going to put a little bit on my finger there. You don't need very much of this stuff. Use it sparingly. Redding number 10 shell holder installed. Up into the sizing die. There we go. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and jump over here to the powder dispenser. 27.5 grains of Hodgdon H4895. I'm going to let that dispense. Meanwhile, I'm going to go over here and chamfer and deburr. There we go. We've chamfered and deburred. I've got a little rag underneath here. I can wipe my excess case lubricant off the case. And then I've got my bench mounted primer here, so I can load a primer into that guy. And seat a primer, just like that. Really nice feel on that guy, beautiful. So now it's ready for powder, which has already been dispensed over here at the RCBS Matchmaster. I've got my powder funnel here, dump the powder into the case, charge it up, and now that case is ready for a bullet to be seated. So from there, we can bring this guy over here, and we'll take this full-length sizing die out. And I've got my pre-adjusted bullet seating die here. And I've got a 40 grain Hornady VMAX bullet. So that guy goes into the case like so. And there we have our completed 223 Remington round. Really as quick and as simple as that. So now you guys have seen for yourself just how efficient this little bench is, from the case forming operations, necking 223 Remington down to 17 Mach 4, to start to finish walking you through loading a single round of 223 Remington. You can see how the workflow of this bench looks and just how easy and efficient it is, and the nice use of space that we have with this particular setup. So hopefully this gives you guys some ideas for your own setup, and perhaps there's some upgrades. One thing we didn't really show was the case ejector system on this RCBS press. It really does speed up the process. It makes it a lot more efficient, and every time you lower this ram back down, it kicks the case out into one of these bins. So it really does make a big difference in your time savings. Overall, this is a really nice setup. I really enjoy it. I really like it. And it's just very efficient for the amount of space it uses. A 5-foot bench and another bench that's less than 1.5 feet in width for the powder measures here. All the stuff mounted on the wall. There's a lot of little things that you guys could take away from this and adapt and use in your own bench, maybe make some upgrades and that sort of thing. So if you've stuck around this long, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. I'd like to invite you to let us know if you like this video by giving us a thumbs up and letting us know. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you're notified when we post our next video. A lot of exciting stuff in the works, lots more load development, gear reviews, and individual videos on this inline fabrication case ejector system, the RCBS Trim Pro 2, some more powder measures, and of course, as always, more load development. So thank you so much, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.